What is going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the bearded comic bro, and I'm back with one of my friends from the show, Marvin Wynn. Welcome back to the channel.
Oh, thanks for having me back. It's always good to come back on the show and shoot the breeze and find out what's new.
That's right. So, well, speaking of which, talking about what's new in your life? Last time you were on, I think was like a year ago. So,
So in that year, we had our ups, we had our downs. I think we're in up position right now.
nice.
We've got the Kickstarter for the Edge trade paperback running right now. We are fully funded. We're pushing towards another 4,500 unlock that I'm hoping we get to unlock. But that's going to unlock what I call it the Fighting Edge cover, which is pretty much a tribute to the Final Fight arcade game.
So yeah, you're in the midst of your Kickstarter. Last time you were on, you were talking about the Edge, and I want to say like issue 2, maybe, or right around there. Does that sound about right?
Right. So during that time, we had issue 2 in motion, and unfortunately, we only got 2 issues out in a year. So we've decided to just go our own way and go under Comicsburg as our branding.
Okay.
So that is the collective in Pittsburgh of comic creators. So we rebranded on Comicsburg. We've got issues 1, 2, 3, and 4 available from the website. We've got issues 1, 2, 3, and 4 available to the Kickstarter with special covers, including it's like it's connecting cover. So covering all 4 issues, a connecting cover that you can piece all together and look super cool if you have it. So we're looking at possibly pitching to Diamond and Lunar next month, but we're just seeing what's going to happen because we've got a con actually coming up this weekend on June 4th and 5th, Three Rivers Comic Con.
Yeah. So, and I know you're busy hitting the con circuit, and so let's just jump right in. Let's talk about a little bit about Comicsburg. When you were here, you were trying to get your book out through a different label and stuff. What was then the move for you guys to say, hey, let's create Comicsburg and start to put out our own content?
Right. So one of the things that is an issue, well, I won't say an issue, is a blind spot in Pittsburgh is the art scene here in Pittsburgh. So we've got a lot of comic creators here. We've got artists, we've got musicians, we've got all this kind of thing. No one knows. So a couple of weeks ago, we were at a book fest, the first book fest here over on the east side of the city. And we've been talking to people, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't even know people were doing this kind of stuff in Pittsburgh." And I said, "Yeah, that's the problem. Is that no one knows these things are going on unless you come to these events because it's not something that's ever talked about. Like Pittsburgh was you considered a blue collar steel town, and then it became a sports town, and it's somewhere in that mode of being a technology town." But we're missing the arts, and there's a lot going on here that people are unaware of. We're trying to like revitalize and show people that like creators are here in Pittsburgh and they're out here waiting for your support.
Yeah, and so you brought the Edge over to Comicsburg. Are there other creators and comics that are a part of Comicsburg?
So we've got Heronberg as part of Comicsburg. We've got Monarch Publishing. They do a book called Beowulf. We've got Theme of Thieves, and we've got a few people that are doing novels also. We've got the Music Maker. So I mean, we're recruiting in Pittsburgh itself, but also outside the city. So the guy who does Theme of Thieves is originally from Cleveland, and we gave him a pass. We bought the jump rope and we jumped him in. So I just having fun and try to expand this thing out as far as it goes, because we're not just going to say that just because you're not from Pittsburgh you can't be part of the collective. We're going to invite people from all over the place.
Yeah. Well, and it's gotta just sting DP a little bit when you got that black and yellow on the cover instead of brown and orange.
Yeah, we're going to make them put it on the back cover now. We're going to say, no, man, you got to label Comicsburg now because they're on there.
So let's talk about then. You're in the middle of your Kickstarter right now with the Edge. I had you on the show, like I said, a year ago. I've got some new subscribers since then. They might not have gotten to know you, Marvin. So let's talk a little bit like, how did you get into creating comics?
So that's a journey that goes all the way back to when I was 6 years old. And my grandfather was a poet, and he was the one who gave me that thought and process of not just being a creator but a reader. Um, it was always his idea that we should always continuously educate ourselves. If we were watching a show or reading something and there was a word that we didn't know, it wasn't just just forget about it, make it up or something. It was always educate yourself. Here's the dictionary, look it up, and then we would go over it later. So that would continuously happen as I moved on to other books like Frankenstein and things like Dracula. My grandfather had a library, and I would just grab things and read it. And some things I was able to catch, some things I wasn't. And he kept putting the dictionary in my hand so many times. I just decided to go ahead and read the dictionary. So it's like, all right, Granddad, I'm just going to read this dictionary, and I'm going to learn these words. And then when I go to read the book and the word comes up, I won't have to come back and read it again. So I mean, it turned into this thing where as he's teaching, I'm learning, and it just got those juices flowing. So then I was introduced to G.I. Joe and Transformers, and during watching G.I. Joe, I discovered, because then they had commercials for comic books, and they would say, join the adventure, G.I. Joe in comic stores or spinner racks or whatever right now. So I would call my grandma, hey, can you buy me G.I. Joe? So G.I. Joe #1 was my first comic.
Nice.
From there, you you get into those comics, and as you're reading them, you look at what else is available in the comics world. So you go and I saw, is Captain America. So that looks like an interesting character. So then I fell into Captain America, which leads to Avengers. You go for Avengers, you go to X-Men, you go to Wolverine. And then you hit the 90s, and Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and all those guys are coming in, and then Image. So once Image started to form, my thought was, so there's more out there than just Marvel and DC. Maybe I can do this kind of writing. And I will tell everybody up front, the first things that I wrote was trash. It was straight up garbage. And I will admit that. And one of the things that we're working on also on the side is a series we're doing called From Script to Store. We're actually going to be filming at the Three Rivers Comic Con coming up this weekend, going through that whole entire journey of creating a comic book from start to finish. And I'm going to actually show or talk about those scripts that I wrote and how bad they were, just to give someone an example of saying that when you first start up with something, just know that it's going to be bad at first. Yep. No one's an expert at anything when they first walk in. Even think of a video game. When you first played Street Fighter, you probably got beat up.
Yep.
Probably lost, and then you said you didn't give up. You tried again. You kept trying until you got good, and then you didn't have to use Ryu or Ken because they had fireballs and they cheated. So it just progressed from there. So you keep practicing. You take a few classes on creative writing and marketing and things like that to get better at the things you want to do. And then when I finally was ready, then I was looking for an artist, and I found our artist, and I say his name one time every stream, Mark Louis Vukukiat, and he'll be Mark V after that. I'm not pronouncing that continuously, but when I found Mark, that is when everything just came together. I had finished writing the first 4 issues, and I handed him the first script, and he said, "I love this. Let's do it." So that was in 2007, and we've been working together since then.
That's awesome. So I love to hear that process of you wanted to learn at an early age how to educate yourself and how to grow, just by reading the dictionary. No kid does that. Most people are oh, hey, I got into comics because I was reading comics, but you started with a dictionary. That's a boss move right there.
Well, I mean, like I said, I give credit to my granddad continuously putting education in first, and always handing me something to read. If we ever said, I'm bored, there's a library, read a book, find something to do, because we're not going to be bored and you're not doing anything. And he always was saying that educate yourself, be better, be better, be better.
Well, and then I loved how you talked about, your honesty up front of you wrote a script and you're like, man, this was trash. There's a process of growth. You don't start out nailing 3-pointers, right, as soon as you pick up. You have to go through this process. And I love that you're you have the honesty to say, hey, like this is where it was at, and now you want to kind of share that with other creators by doing this video series, and that sounds like just such a cool idea.
Well, I mean, it's the one thing I think is missing from the process. It's not just for creators, but for readers too.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that it takes 6 months to a year to make one book. It's a process, and it goes through so many hands that you can have so many breakdowns in that process before you realize that you're in something that you really enjoy and like.
Yeah, that's so cool. So let's talk The Edge then, because it's a series that I'm familiar with. I've read. You were graciously. I've read it before, but then you graciously sent this beautiful comic. It doesn't even do it justice on camera screen. The foil, so cool. But if someone hasn't gotten to read The Edge yet, isn't exposed to The Edge, what is it about?
So the Edge is a drug that grants special abilities. So if you're familiar with, X-Men books or the Wildcats and things from Image Stormwatch, it can grant these special abilities that the people have absolutely no control over. But what they don't know is that it's going to end up costing them their lives or their sanity. So our antagonist / protagonist is Revenant, and he's a former government assassin who's now escaped into the wild. He doesn't want to work for anyone but himself anymore. He has the secrets of the Edge, not just in his head, but in his blood. So there's concern that he could be captured. Someone could drain his blood or take a sample, and then they would know the secrets of the Edge. So there's a strike team formed, unknown that they've also been dosed with the Edge in some fashion to go either eliminate him or bring him back in. So the one thing we like to do is not even really give who the hero and the villains of the story is, because everyone has their own story to tell here. And we're playing in a lot of gray area where people are going to do nefarious things to survive in a situation where it's all stakes. There's so many stakes in the story and the lives of these characters that sometimes they're going to make mistakes and sometimes they're going to do things that don't seem above board.
Yeah, it's so cool. And what I love now is that if someone hasn't gotten a chance to read The Edge, I mean, this is a perfect time to hop in, right? Like you're putting out the trade paperback via Kickstarter. And so is that 4 issues or 5?
The first 4 issues.
First 4 issues. Okay. And so, well, let's talk then about the Kickstarter process. You're in the middle of it right now. You're funded, but I know you've got probably stretch goals. You've got goals that you're trying to still meet. If someone wants to check out The Edge, where would be a good place for them to kind of start on this Kickstarter?
Well, I would probably say just hit the Kickstarter, because I'm pushing, like the website is pushing right to the Kickstarter right now.
Okay.
I've took the website down offline while I do some rebuilding on it to make it more useful for a new reader when they come in. So like the whole entire story and the basics and the backs and the previews are on Kickstarter. And like I said, that we're at 4,200 right now. We're pushing towards a 4,500 goal that's going to unlock another cover.
Nice. And so you have, if someone's trying to get in, I'm assuming you've got different tiers of physical copies, digital copies, and then as well as the single issues and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Right. So we're offering the trade in physical and digital. We've got single issues. We've got upgrades to the single issues that will have a connecting cover that covers all 4 issues. We actually unlocked issues 5 and 6, physical and digital, through the Kickstarter, so you can do those as add-ons. We've got coffee. So we've got the Edge coffee from Comics on Coffee. They did a special bag for us. That if you just get the bag itself of coffee, you get 2 prints with that. We're offering prints with everything. We've got stickers. We got 2 sets of stickers. What else is over there? I think that's about it. So we got a lot of stuff rocking and rolling on there for almost everybody if they want to jump on. So
and I love that you guys are offering the coffee one, because coffee on Comics or Comics on Coffee.
Yes.
Their coffee is top notch, gang. Like it's out of Florida.
Yes.
And they're awesome. They're like, I have bags of it at my house. So is this a special blend that they're doing for this, or just a special bag?
It's just a bag. So it's
okay.
blend. I think that we may do a special blend. We may do like a Revenant blend. It'll be like pumpkin spice.
Nice.
I could imagine like Revenant enjoying a little bit of pumpkin on the side.
That's awesome. So you have this awesome world of this story. Where did this kind of idea for you to take the edge then kind of start to create? Because you have a vast world that you've developed here.
So I think like it's my love letter to a lot of the things that I read in the 90s, 80s and 90s, like the over expanding universe of X-Men, the over expanding universe of G.I. Joe, the over expanding universe of Macross. And it's just a fire in me that says that I enjoy long form storytelling. I enjoy the setup in the first episode that then has payoff in the 10th episode, and how you watch these characters grow and change over time, and you're growing and changing with them. So it's a journey for everyone to go on together to find out what's going to happen when all these things start to come to a head with this edge, and when people start finding out what's really going on.
Yeah, it's such a cool concept because, like you said, you have your character, the Revenant, and there's a way to say like you feel like, oh, I think they might be good, I think they might be bad, but it's a captivating way to say, okay, I'm invested to try and figure out where it is. Now, I feel like last time we talked, you had, correct me if I'm wrong, I felt like you have a vision of where you're going to do this series, but you're also doing some one-offs eventually of some of the characters. Is that?
Right. So as part of the Kickstarter, there's going to be previews for, so we're going to say 2 1-shots, and then the Revenant story is a 1 cut.
Okay.
So the first story is called Rush, and that is actually going to be set here in Pittsburgh, where there's a vial of the Edge that's on the open market. So all the nefarious people are going to come to send on Pittsburgh to try to get a hold of the Edge. So not only is that going to allow us to play in the city itself, but we're going to have a little bit of crossover with Harrenburg. So we're going to have a few of the characters from Harrenburg making an appearance in this story.
Oh, nice.
So then the 1 cut is a Revenant, kind of like an origin story, but it's narrated by Revenant himself. And since his mind is so out of order, the book is told out of order. So it jumps around a bunch. So it starts maybe at the end, jumps to the beginning, then to the middle, as he's telling the story to one of his clones.
That sounds bonkers. I'm excited to check that out to see what the process through and try and figure out, what's going on in the midst of that.
And the last one is called Angel Wing. This one is a story about a former military paratroop team who have all been retired because they were injured in battle. They're going into Dubai because they heard there's some WMDs. But the WMDs turn out to be people who are in the final stage of dying from the Edge.
Wow. That's bonkers. Like gang, I told you up front, like Marvin has this vast world and you're just like, nah, even more.
Like I said, it's like we're in the middle of that. So these books take place in between the arcs. So the Rush story takes place between issues 4 and 5.
Okay.
The Revenant story takes place between issues 9 and 10, and then the Angel Wings takes place between issues. I think our cutoff for the next arc is 15, either 15 or 16. So it takes place in between those. So it allows us to expand on the stories of these other characters that are popping up, and then integrate them into the main cast.
So how far out do you just listed out like 3 different arcs? How far out do you have the Edge scripted out?
I think I have work up to 5 arcs, and we have artwork done. We're right now in the middle, like we're near the end of the 3rd arc and 1 arc.
Sheesh. So you are nonstop grinding, and so how does that then, your focus on the Edge, is that kind of your baby right now that you're working on? Are you trying to dabble into other projects as well, or?
Well, I mean, we've Mark and I have talked about other things, but it's funny because every time we start discussing something else, it starts to pull us back to the Edge. So there was a like a more of a medieval kind of story that we were talking about, and it ended up becoming a mystic story. So this is going to allow us to dabble a little bit in fantasy about the background of those swords that he carries and where they came from.
That's awesome. and I see that you mentioned that with Harrenberg that you guys are kind of doing a little crossover in one of the upcoming issues. Is that tied with the Comicsburg label? Is that kind of where that spawned off, or just your friendship with Manny and all those people?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that as we were doing these conventions, and sometimes you have those little laws in the convention, and I just sit down and I start writing notes on things, and I'm thinking, man, it's really a shame that people don't know that there's comics being done in Pittsburgh. So what's the easiest way to do that? We make a label called Comicsburg, and we walk around town wearing these shirts, and someone says, "Hey, what's Comicsburg? What is that?" And then you get to explain to these people, well, this is what Comicsburg is, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know those kind of things were going on." And then it expands from there. So when we did the book fest, the person who was running that, they want to do like us going around the city and talking at high schools and grade schools on comics and everything. It's like that's just what we want to do. Is like we want to, like, because the one thing that you don't see a lot of conventions, a lot of young people and a lot of youngsters probably aren't in the comics like we were when we were their age. So you're trying to not only create new readers but new creators. Like you might run out of creators soon if they're not interested in these comic books that like we were when we were younger. And we were at an event at New Dimension Comics here, and it was so good to see so many children there for Free Comic Book Day. A lot of children in the store.
I will say this, man, Pittsburgh has some dope shops for sure. You guys have some really cool comic book shops. I was up there last fall or whatever, and I think I hit 3 or 4, and I was like, man, this is impressive.
Yeah, so we've got New Dimension, we've got Phantom Attic, we've got Heroes Inc., we've got Pittsburgh Comics, we've got Southside Comics, we've got Geekadrome. Yeah, it's you would figure that like on your side, on Ohio, they would have more comic stores than they have and it's just in Pittsburgh, and you don't. And like, man, why is there so many here than there is in other areas? Like even in Pennsylvania, I think there's another 10 or 15 more other stores around the state.
Yeah, I feel like Ohio we have a bunch in Columbus, and then it's very sporadic.
It's sparse, yeah.
Yeah, it's thin for sure. So, well, I love that idea of bringing creators together to say, hey, like, how can we promote our city? How can we promote our, what we're working on? Is this something that do you guys seek out other creators, or did creators kind of seek you? Or are you guys still trying to figure out that process of like how to get under the label of Comicsburg?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Like you're saying with DP, when he saw the T-shirts, he's like, "Man, you guys got T-shirts now. This is a real thing now." And he's like, "I want in." So we had to get him a T-shirt made, and we had to get the jump rope to jump him in, of course.
Yeah,
and I think it just becomes one of those things where when you're creating a brand and people recognize it and they say, "Oh man, that's something I want to be a part of," and then you explain to them what you're trying to do. And then you start taking this thing on the road. So the thing about it, when we go to West Virginia, we go to Ohio, and we say, "Hey, comics from Pittsburgh, Comicsburg," and that piques people's interest. So like, you guys do comic books in Pittsburgh? I didn't know that. And when we're on the East, people know Pittsburgh on the East Coast, of course, because of football and baseball and things like that.
Because you guys cheat in football and stuff, but that's not.
Well, we want people to recognize it as more than that. We want to recognize as a arts town because it's just so much art going on here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and that's such a cool concept. Again, of like you said, it's a brand. The fact that nobody has a comic shop called Comicsburg yet. You guys created a brilliant mark. Like I heard that and I'm like, how did that not exist before?
Yeah. I mean, well, how did it not exist as anything in Pittsburgh at all?
Yeah.
And we just like, it was like one of those things, you're sitting there and someone said a Pittsburgh comic collective. I'm like, no, we're Comicsburg. That's, oh my God. Why would we never ever think about this thing before? And then when you do the logo and you've got the bridges and everything, because Pittsburgh's known for bridges, even ones that collapse.
Yeah.
But most of them are standing up. So I mean, but you know how it goes.
You got any French fries on that bridge, or is it just on your sandwiches, Marvin?
No, it's not no Permane sandwiches.
Oh man. So where can people follow along with you with Comicsburg? How can they get plugged in? Obviously I'll have the links to the Kickstarter and stuff below, but what about with you and Comicsburg? How can people check out what's going on?
So since we're still in branding mode, we're actually going to be doing a website, Twitter and Instagram for Comicsburg pretty soon. Because there's so many of us now that one of us can run it at all times. But if you're looking for me on Facebook, I'm the Edge at the Edge Comic. On Instagram, I'm at the Edge Comic, and on Twitter, I'm at Marvin Wynn. Because someone has at the Edge Comic and they never post. I'm like, why won't they just delete that account so I can take it?
Man, you got to figure out a way. We got to start a petition to get that for you.
Yeah. I need to call Elon and tell him buy Twitter so I can get this account.
He's working on that for you. Oh man. Well, it's so cool to hear the process and of what you're going through with the Edge here and how you're creating something that has been a love letter, I feel like, that you've been writing forever.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the Kickstarter a little bit more. We're trying to hit those stretch goals here. What is one of your favorite goals that you have that you're offering that you're like, that's something that's really cool?
I thought that offering issue 5 and 6 was a big get for us because it was something that someone asked about because they were like, well, what's going on with issue 5? I know it's done. And it was like, man, should I add it to the Kickstarter? And I was like, yeah, I might as well. And then I said, okay, I might as well do issue 6. And I said, no, I'm not putting any more on there because if I want to do another Kickstarter, then I won't have any other single issues to put up there when I do the volume 2 trade. So I think, but my favorite thing on there is the coffee. I mean, I think that was inspired choice for absolutely no reason out of left field for me because all I was looking for was what could I put on here that's unique. People do shot glasses, they do cups, they do pens and things like that. I was like, man, everyone's doing that. What is something that someone's not doing? The coffee was what I landed on, and then right after I started doing it, a bunch of other creators started putting coffee in their Kickstarter.
You're like, come on, gang!
Like, man, put copy in me. Put copy in me.
But it's such a cool concept too because A, the coffee is great, but then B, you have that exclusive bag then, so you still can utilize the art. You can enjoy the product, deliciously, and then you can enjoy it by just having that piece of art still.
Right. I say that you can drink the Edge while you're reading the Edge.
Now you're not going to get any powers drinking this coffee, are you?
I don't think you want anything to do with what the Edge is going to give you powers.
Oh man. Well, Marvin, it's always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. Before I wrap up, is there anything that we haven't hit on that you'd love to touch base on still?
No, I mean, I there's one thing that I like to talk about on every stream that I'm on for anyone who wants to be a creator out there. Just know that you're going to get knocked down a lot. And throughout my years of doing this, I've gotten knocked down a lot. And it's something that I always bring up is that there was a time where I almost quit. And it wasn't until I met Mark that I revitalized the energy in me to get back on the horse, per se. But when you get knocked down, you just get up and dust yourself off. Like you only fail when you quit. Like as long as you keep trying, you're not a failure.
Yep. It's so true. I feel like it's with everything that's going on in this world, and if you got a passion for something, keep doing it no matter what people tell you, no matter what people keep doing you. That's awesome. So, well, Marvin, I'm grateful to have you on as always. Gang, the links to the Kickstarter in the description of this video, or if you're listening via podcast, it's in the links to that as well in the description. All of Marvin's information to how to follow Marvin, and be on the lookout. I'm sure you'll be posting on your personal stuff when Comicsburg stuff goes live, so people can start to follow those accounts as well. But man, Marvin, thanks just for taking some time to talk about comics with me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. So with that being said, gang, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out.